thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. And thank you to many of you who have come out to so many of our events already in the past. We opened our first office here in Greensburg this past weekend, and when I say our first office, that's the first office for the entire campaign. My campaign really started out here in Greensburg. The people out here have been incredibly supportive from day one, from the nomination process. It means a lot to me, and I'm never going to forget about it. So this past Saturday, we had over 100 people in our office on East Otterman Street. I went out and knocked doors in 5-degree weather for 2 hours. And my girlfriend, who is a Westmoreland County native, honestly, I thought she was from sturdier stock, but she was not really loving the weather conditions, but she didn't quit on me. So, you know, we survived that, which is good. Vince talked for a moment about hypocrisy, and I want to start there. Because we all know now that Tim Murphy was a hypocrite. But I believe that the entire agenda of Murphy and his crowd is an example of public hypocrisy that is fully equal to the private hypocrisy of Tim Murphy. So we remember that they promised us jobs in the last campaign. But that group can't even introduce an infrastructure bill, let alone pass one. They can't even introduce the one thing that would create jobs in our district tomorrow. And everybody here remembers their promises about health care, that you'd have the same health care or better health care than you had before. But every time we turn around, what we see is that they're trying to take health care away. I saw in my last job as a federal prosecutor that our kids are dying every single day. Our people are dying from the heroin epidemic, and they are trying to take health care away. Rural hospitals are some of the largest employers and job creators in our district, and they are trying to take health care away from people. And we now know that's not the only thing they're trying to take away. They rang up over $1 trillion in debt with this corporate tax scam that they call tax reform, and they don't know how to pay the bill. But make no mistake, there's only one place that they're going for that money, and that's the Social Security, and that's Medicare. Another promise they said they never were going to touch. But it's time now for honest talk. Because when they use a term like tax reform, they don't want to engage in honest talk. There's a reason. It's because they wrote that tax bill for the 1% and for big corporations. I don't know about you, but to me, the most shocking thing about that piece of legislation is that 80% of the cost of it, let me say that again, 80% of $1.5 trillion goes to the 1% and goes to big corporations. It doesn't go to the middle class. That's not tax reform. Let's call it what it is. That's corporate welfare. That's what that bill was. And they don't know how to pay for that corporate welfare, so now they start using another term. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. Entitlement reform. That means taking the money that you paid from your hard work, your whole working life, and giving it to other people that need it. Actually, it is an entitlement. You're entitled to it because it's your money. You paid it all this time. And it's an entitlement. And guess what? It doesn't need to be reformed. Okay? So let's call this what it is. It's a giveaway. Franklin Roosevelt said that there was one test people expected of the Democratic Party and expected of their government. They just wanted their government to walk on the same side of the street that they did. So in this campaign, that's what we're going to do. We're going to take the fight directly to Rick Saccone against this anti-middle class, anti-American legislative agenda that he's following from on high, from his leader, Paul Ryan, and the rest of them. There will be no doubt at the end of this campaign on March 13th who truly represents the working families of this district. And me, like I said, I'm a military officer and a prosecutor by training, so I take things pretty literally. When somebody told me about that quote from FDR and what he believed about the essence of government, I said, you know what, I'm going to get out there and knock some doors. So a couple weeks ago in the city of Washington, PA, again, I dragged my girlfriend out there in some pretty cold weather, and we went to 15 houses in a row, nobody home. And, you know, it was a little bit of a downer way to start the day, but we kept going. And finally, we came across a gentleman who was in his front yard, and he was doing some kind of work. He had his sawhorses set up, and I stopped him, and, you know, I just needed to talk to a human being at that point. He wasn't even on my list. And I said, hey, sir, I'm Conor Lamb. I'm running for Congress. Would love to talk to you. And he told me that he was a construction worker who had just been laid off from the Southern Beltway project that runs right through the heart of our district, out from Pittsburgh Airport down past 79, and it should ultimately go all the way to the Montfayette Expressway if the funding is there and it's reliable, which is why we need things like an infrastructure program. he didn't know what he was going to do next, and he also didn't know when the last time was that he voted for a Democrat. But we talked for a couple minutes, talked about roads and bridges and about work, and he said, "You know what, kid, I think I could vote for you." And so I said, "Thanks," and, and I walked away. And about 20 minutes later, the gentleman came rattling down the street in a rusted out pickup truck, and he stopped in the middle of the street, and he called me over, and he rolled down the window. He reached out and he handed me a crumpled up piece of paper. And I took it from him and opened it up, and it was a check that he had just written for $25. He leaned in as he handed it to me and he said, "Kid, you're not going to win this one on your looks alone." That's what you learn when you get out there in the street with the voters. They tell you the truth. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that people have, but I really do want to thank you for coming out tonight. I know everybody has other things to do, but we have a very short time to meet a lot of voters in this district, and I'm happy to